to a restaurant. The waitress was unbelievably kind. The manager, on the other hand, was not so stoked. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah.
At the end. But I was like standing on a booth getting that top down shot of you, just like, and the waitress was super cool.
I wish we had a behind the scenes photo, because you would look into the booth and you would see I'm sitting there eating, and on the other side of the booth, Trevor is literally just standing on it with the Ronin and the camera, like to get those high angles and everything. I mean, we probably looked absurd to anybody, but we did it. And one little tip actually that I'm going to throw out there that I've never mentioned ever before is for anybody who is trying to film publicly around other humans where they're going to be looking at you. I'm telling you, sunglasses are your best friend. You'll notice that in both of the videos that we've done like this, the one in Vegas on the Harley and the one that we'll talk about later, probably walking around London and talking to the camera, I'm wearing sunglasses. If you're going to film out in public and have people look at you and you're embarrassed by that, some people are not, and I envy those people, but I am not one of those. Like a lot of the comments on those videos are like, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you said that in the convenience store, like with people around you. And the reality is I am probably more terrified of what other people think of me than most of you watching or listening to this. That is a very real reality, is I am very uncomfy talking to a camera when there's other humans around. It makes me squeamish. I do not like it. But what I try to do is I just try to completely ignore them. I used to play basketball in high school, and for better or for worse, I would just completely black out. I mean, there was literally one time where I remember I was going for a wide open layup and I'm like, why the hell am I so wide open? Turns out it was the other team's basket and my whole team was yelling at me, Caleb, but I couldn't hear. And so I try to channel that kind of same energy when I'm filming in public, is like, how do I just completely ignore the fact that that dude over there is looking at me very puzzled? Because the reality is it doesn't really actually matter. And more often than not, they're thinking about it in the moment, and then seconds later they're driving and they're paying attention to the road, or their kid screaming in the back and they don't give a shit. But I thought that was a very interesting video because you got to exercise some interesting skills that you have not ever in the past, which is you probably did, I think we could comfortably say 30 different camera setups.
In like
12 hours.
Yeah, like 10 or 12 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, which was insane. Real quick, before we move on, let's talk about that real quick. Like a lot of people in the comments on that video ask about what was the film setup. I mean, some people think that I filmed it myself, which that is wildly impressive on those walking shots. But talk to us about that. Like, what was that like?
We've had to get very scrappy. And also in the past year, I think my actual production skills have leveled up so much. I used to do it all the time when like I filmed quite a bit at my last role, but all sit down talking head stuff. And then before that I did some commercial work and some stuff like, but nothing crazy, like nothing like super, but like it's been interesting that we have some ideas. Like you also have this one idea of going to New York and filming in the back of a taxi cab. And I actually have like in my head how I'd shoot that and how I do that with like GoPros and stuff. Like there's been some interesting production setups, but for this one particularly, in particular, I think we bought a Ronin RS4 or something like that.
RS4 Pro.
I think, yeah, it was an RS4 Pro Ronin. So knowing that like we have to basically be in and out, this restaurant or this convenience store will kick us out if we're there for more than 2 minutes.
And we officially got permission, but they were like, make it quick.
It's funny because like when you walk around with a phone and a camera, you're like, which is something you can get a phone. Honestly, it's something we should have considered as a phone stabilizer and just shot with an iPhone. That would have been probably a little bit more inconspicuous, but we did a full RS4. I had wired earbuds, and then I had you laved up with, I believe, the DJI Holy Land mics, like something like these wireless mics. The audio wasn't the best, like the audio quality. But for run and gun, like everything that we're doing right now, it's not like a wired Sennheiser mic or anything. We're going for speed. Yeah. Like I remember you telling me, I know you haven't done this much before, but like we're gonna need to be in and out. You need your white balance. Like I think sometimes I even did auto white balance because I'm not gonna sit here and like fumble with the settings. Like you need to be in and out for a lot of these different shots. And you also,
I'm going to say something here real quick. It was a little bit more dramatic and intense than that. There at the gas station, I literally turned to Trevor and I was like, you have 2 shots, 2 takes for each of these scenes. I'm going to walk up, grab a Red Bull, and you have 2 attempts to get it. And then we're moving on. Like it was a little intense. I was like, you have 2 tries. And if we fuck this up, we're moving on.
it was very stressful, but I'd say by the time we got to the London video, I had it mostly dialed. Like,
oh yeah,
you could tell I'm in a whole different world, and I'm like, but like we had the pre-production dialed, but that was the setup. It's the most basic, like what can go wrong. I'm on autofocus. I have like auto settings, like anything that I can eliminate going wrong in those scenarios. I learned that like we need to do it. We also just had a certain amount of daylight. And so setting up, I think, was that the video that we had a monopod for? No, that was a London video.
Yep.
But we had very quick, I almost very rarely, I think, used an actual tripod.
Yeah.
And I went handheld with the gimbal, just like this. I mean, and just sitting there, like we're going to do a top down shot. Cool. Holding the gimbal right here. Like, and we're going to go and roll. Very interesting production challenge, but like, that's how we did it. And we're scrappy with it too. Like, I think we taped a mic to the inside of your helmet, and that's how we recorded the audio there when we drove down. Like, I just had you roll through the neighborhood on your bike, and we recorded audio a different day, and I just like taped a mic into your helmet or something.
And we wanted it to sound real, but we also wanted it to be hearable and legible, or not legible, but hearable, understandable. You know what I'm saying? And so what we did for the real nerds out there is we did not record that audio on the same bike. We actually, I'm kind of a weirdo, and I have a couple Harley Davidsons that I love. And we picked my quiet one, the Pan Am, which is, it sounds like a sewing machine basically. And so it would still have the sound of being on a motorcycle, but wouldn't be quite as intense as the Road King. And then in post, I remember you added, but more like you had control to separate my audio from the bike audio, but you added in the Road King so that it was authentic. So like if you are a Harley nut and you watch that video, all of that shit is real. We recorded all of that folly. Like when I take off and you hear the exhaust get louder and louder, like we recorded all of that on the 3rd day, I think, right? Yeah.
All planned with pre-production. Yep. All in like, this is how I'm going to tackle this, and this is how we're going to do it. And that's probably the biggest lesson that month. I think we also launched the course.
Yep. Yeah. April 4th, we launched the course, and it didn't do that much in the beginning. Like it did better than we expected by all means. But compared to what you guys see now, that first month gave us no indication that it was going to take off and go, in our world, intergalactic, right? Like we did not see that. So we go from April into May. And May was interesting. There was a lot of different things, but I think the cool thing that we could talk about is there's 2 things. The second thing will be, this is the month that the course did start taking off. But the first thing that I think we should talk about, Gary Vaynerchuk, if you don't know who Gary V is, what rock are you living under? This man pioneered the whole space of being a entrepreneur who's creating their personal brand online and making content at scale. Like he pioneered the whole thing. All these individuals that you probably watch and learn from right now that you admire, they are here because of the trail that he blazed. And Gary, for the last couple of years, has been focused, as far as I understand, far more on VeeFriends and VaynerMedia and really operating those things. And he wanted to do something really fucking cool in May. For VeeFriends, they had a massive release. They partnered with Topps, the card, like playing card, collector card maker, Topps. And I'm a little ignorant on this world, so please excuse my ignorance. Anybody who's really in it, you can roast me in the comments. But Topps has a limited edition version of their cards called Topps Chrome cards, I think is something like that. And VeeFriends was doing a Topps Chrome release, which, as a side note, y'all, is fucking wild. It was not that long ago that Gary was drawing these characters on a piece of paper and had this idea. And within less than 5 years, that dude is doing a partnership with the #1 card maker. I could go on. I really admire Gary. I love him to death. He's the best. But he wanted to document that month of releasing that. by bringing back Daily V, which was a series that he did, a vlog series on YouTube, where for a very long time, he was uploading almost every single day a vlog from the previous day, usually literally just 24 hours prior, because the team would stay up all night, edit it, and then release it. Bunch of savages. And he wanted to bring that back, kind of like a nostalgic play to document the whole process. And in doing that, he invited all the OG characters that had been videographers over the years, which was so cool. Like, I know that Justin Dalfrez came back and filmed, David Rock, obviously, Tyler Babin, Jason Marina, right? Dustin Lee did an episode. I did an episode. It was awesome. Stefan did an episode from Ask Gary V days. Like, it was awesome. It was so cool. And I felt really honored to be invited. But then I felt a little insecure because I have not edited a video in years. I mean, years. I've cut maybe like a short here and there and stuff like that. I did a couple of shorts edits, but for the most part, I hadn't done any editing. And the plan was like, we're doing quick turnarounds. I have historically, that one of the things that I think I tried to build my editing brand on when I was an editor is like my speed. I was really fast, but now I am not. And I wanted to deliver for the man, right? Like Gary's asking me to come out and stuff. And so we tag teamed that. Mm-hmm. And that was really cool because you've been a Gary fan for a while now, right?
That's how I got introduced to you.
Yeah.
It was through a fellow. I was doing intern-esque work for
Tyler Babin,
Gary's original videographer after D-Rock.
Yeah, he came in after D-Rock.
Like right after D-Rock. Yeah. I was doing some work for him back years and years ago. And that's how we actually connected. But yeah, I literally grew up 16, 17. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now, is because of Gary, which was a very surreal being in a car with him. That was weird.
That was so cool. And so what we did is we tag teamed it. I filmed, and then I was giving you the footage and you were editing. But let's be real. In addition to that, Trevor was also helping me because, again, I haven't been the person on the go filming in a long time. And what people don't realize, that man is a mutant. He has energy like I have never, ever seen. If he has coffee or he doesn't have coffee, the man is electric. It's crazy. He's go, 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 go. To this day, he's still that way, right?
I saw it. I witnessed it.
Yeah.
I had heard stories. You had on our last team, you so many times were like, I've been in this scenario, trust me, with Gary. And like, bro, Gary would have me up for 3 days straight. And I'm taking a private jet flight trying to sleep and edit at the same time. Like, I heard it and I was like, yeah, you worked hard, but like, I don't know if I realized the extent of how this man moves until I'm traveling. Because I was editing, but I was traveling with you while we were going.
Yeah, like Trevor was helping me carry the bag with all the fucking camera batteries and stuff like that. Like you were helping me with that. You were helping me grab headphones, like all kinds of things. I mean, I remember we were standing in the auditorium where the convention was happening, and I hadn't eaten in like 9 hours. And I have a fun little thing where if I don't eat for a super long time, I get like low blood sugar, shaky, and I end up fainting. And so Trevor like ran and grabbed me food and stuff like that. Like that was super helpful. Back in the day, I didn't have that. I would just grab like my blood sugar was low. So it'd be like, oh, there's a Snickers bar in the green room. Cool. I'm just going to down the Snickers bar real quick. And one thing that I want to mention that to be super clear here, it wasn't that Gary was demanding these things. It's that I respect that man so much. And I would see time and time again, we'd have a full day where he's, shaking hands and answering questions for hundreds of people. And then immediately on the next, 4-hour flight, he's on his phone working the whole time. And it's like, God, how can I not, I remember at the time, I think when I was working with him, I think he was like 44, 45, and I was, 24, 25 or something like that. And I was like, this dude's almost double my age and he has triple the energy. This is insane. I'm at the point in my life where I should have the most energy and be the most willing to stay up and scrappy. And I was, but it was wild. And so the thing that was really cool though, is you got to edit 2 different Daily Vs.
The series that I watched in high school. Yeah.
That
was cool.
That was an amazing moment. And one thing that was really cool too is I think we got to work with Team Gary as Team Gary is now. And that was also really cool. I mean, like Sid, obviously great individual, great human, did a great job of corralling all of us crazy characters. Cause, you know, Stefan, David, Tyler, like myself, we all have things that we're doing, right? Like we either have jobs or we're building our own businesses. And the fact that Sid and the team were able to help corral Nerea, everybody was able to help corral all of these moving parts and make this actually happen, right? Like, shout out Victoria, like awesome EA, like that was super helpful. Aaron on the team managing YouTube, like gangster, like it was so fun, but it was also so interesting for me to see how things have evolved, right? As they should. But that was kind of an interesting moment, but it was cool for you to see some of the behind the scenes of the stories that I've told and stuff like that. You know, the war stories.
It was all true. He just moves. He just doesn't stop. He is awake 3 hours. Like I remember we did like 5 cities in 3 days or something like that.
Yeah, it was wild.
Somewhere in Canada to
somewhere else in Canada.
New York, to somewhere else in Toronto, New York, Orlando, Atlanta, back to Vegas. Like insane. And he just moves. He just doesn't stop. Don't meet your heroes, but my respect for him only grew. Yeah. Of just like seeing him interact. Like he always makes time for people. He never stops. At that booth, I remember who walked by when we were at the booth? It was
oh fuck. Why am I blanking on his name?
I know the rapper.
Yeah, Waka Flocka.
Waka Flocka. Just walked by the booth and Gary doesn't go and talk to Waka. Like clearly I think Waka like wanted to like hang out or do something, but like
they had talked backstage. They had connected. Waka was like, yo, I'm going to stop by the booth at some point. And Gary was in the middle of a conversation with somebody who was in I'll just say a wild scenario. And this would have been a really good moment for Gary and for V-Friends. And he could have easily stepped aside, taken the photo, and then come back. But instead, he focused all his attention on this person who was going through a wild scenario and really looked up to Gary and got a lot from him. And I remember like both of us, that like was a crystal clear moment. The thing that I noticed too is, you know, we've been able to work for some great people. We've been able to work with some incredible characters this last year. And a lot of them have huge personal brands and are talked about a lot online. But there has never been a human that I've walked through a public place with, not one person, who has more people stop to ask for a photo. But even more than that, people whispering, being like, oh my God, that's Gary V. I don't want to bug him, but wow. Like, I've been watching him since I was in junior high. I've been watching him since I was in high school. Like, incredible to see. And I think for me, it was a moment where this was about halfway into us building my personal brand. And I just remember I never have ambitions of ever being at Gary's level, nor do I think that I'm capable of doing that. That man is on a different level. But I remember thinking, okay, with the audience that we're building, I really want to act like Gary and do what Gary does, which is put the audience first above his own self-interests. At times where it is so clear how much it would help him, he still chooses the audience. And I thought that was so cool. And that's something that we've tried to take into the content that we make, right? Is like putting the audience first. Like, for example, we got my dog here who's kind of disturbing things and stuff. And we didn't have really any time other than now to film this podcast. And it's a little distracting. And this is your 3rd podcast. And you've been doing this despite him being like in the background. And that's distracting. See, that's distracting. But we're still trying to do this because we've never done anything like this. We've never shared this kind of information on our approach to growing my personal brand. And it's a tiny little way. It's an insignificant example comparison to what Gary has done. But it's one way that we're trying to apply and live that out in what we're doing, which I think is the coolest thing. So May was fun getting to work with Gary again and hang out with him and travel with him and seeing him in action. It was really fucking cool. Trevor also edited those daily Vs. Like we got done with that trip. And like he said, it was like 5 cities, 6 cities, something crazy in a very short amount of time, like 3 days. And we were exhausted. And I turned to Trevor. I'm like, oh man, I'm so excited to go home and get cozy in my bed and sleep. And he's like, I'm so excited to go home and get cozy with the editing because he still had the videos to edit. So shout out to Trevor and shout out to all the editors that don't get mentioned, but stay up all night editing content for the people who are in front of the camera. you deserve more acknowledgement, in my opinion. But beyond that, we go into June, and this is when, like, May is kind of when I felt like things started picking up, because the other thing that I forgot to mention that we'll just hit really quick is in May is when the course took off.
May 1st, the course was at 49,362 views. So that was after a little less than a month of being up. And it, for a while there, was looking like it was actually flatlining on YouTube.
And to be clear, 49,000 views in the first month is fucking absurd. We never could have dreamed or imagined.
Yeah. Like, so that's where it was at as of May 1st. As of May 31st, it was at 165,161 and climbing every day. I mean, to this day, we're still getting anywhere from like 2,000 to 4,000 hits a day. Like, that's where the curve absolutely took off, and this thing just took on a mind of its own. And I think with that, also put the, because we made a workbook associated with this course. I don't know if we've actually talked about that. It was completely free. All you needed to do was just add your email. We actually ended up growing our email list. Like right now, I think we're at like 44,000 people on that email list, mostly from the course alone. But that was when I think up until this point, we've been spending a lot of our time in pre-production, production for our YouTube videos and having fun. And this is, I think, to where I think you're about to go with this. Like, this is where, along with that video, things started to change.
Yeah. I'd say up until this point, probably 65 to 70% of my time was spent on the amazing clients that we partnered with from the very beginning. And that was awesome. And then, like Trevor said, we not only were racking up all these views, but there was a lot of people, a high percentage of the viewers were downloading the workbook. And with that, we were also getting a lot of people going to the homepage on our site, applying to work with us. Like, in the first year alone, we got over 800 companies that applied to work with us. Like, that was insane. We had so much demand. And I remember we got to a point where I started to feel pretty like a little freaked out because I didn't know what to do. And I had all these people being like, how are you not sending emails? How are you not doing this? Da-da-da-da. And I had so many people, which I'm grateful for. These are like gangsters in business that for whatever reason care about me and what we're doing and are giving me advice on what we should do. But it was a lot of different voices with a lot of different ideas. And I just remember end of May, or no, actually like beginning of May, I'm like, I need help on the operation of this. And what I thought I needed was an EA. And so I think it was in May when we posted that I was looking for an executive assistant. And I started running interviews and everything like that. Well, come June, or actually really end of May, I was conducting quite a few of these interviews. And one in particular really stood out. I interviewed Kate Padoba, and I won't go into all the details to spare her privacy and everything, but it was fucking unbelievable. Like, I had a lot of good interviews, and a lot of the people that I talked to, I loved, and it was amazing. Like, I was so grateful at the quality of individuals that were coming through. But Kate stood out. And I remember we ended the conversation basically being like, this isn't going to work out. I'm not going to be able to figure out how to afford you, all of those things. And this was the craziest part. I remember later that evening, Kate followed up via email saying, totally understand that this isn't going to work moving forward and everything. I love what you're doing. I remember you mentioned that there's all these new people coming into your life and you're having a tough time managing all these relationships. You want to check in with people. You want, if it's their birthday, you want to send them a text, or you want to send them a card or a gift, or just different things, right? I was just suddenly getting an influx of humans in my life. And you know me, I'm pretty introverted. And so like, I don't necessarily naturally have the gift of doing that. And so she said something that I built for the executive that I work for right now is this simple Google Sheet, but it was incredibly useful. It was the relationship database that she used to manage all the different people in her exec's life, and whether they were professional, personal, whatever, family members, all of that. And she sent it to me and she said, feel free to duplicate this and customize it to yourself. Any good EA will know how to use this. And I remember I probably texted you within seconds of seeing that. And I was like, fuck. I got to figure out how to get Kate. And through a series of meetings with my CPA and coming up with how we were going to make this work, we determined that we didn't just need an executive assistant. We needed a chief of staff, somebody to help with the operations of everything, right? Not just the operations of my life, both personal and professional, but the operations of the business, because now it was turning into a business. Before, it was kind of like I had a cool job and you were helping me make content to get more jobs. This was the moment where we started turning into a business. Now, mind you, I'm not saying we're like some big business or anything like that. I hate when people pretend to be something that they are not. We are not that. But it was way more serious than what I anticipated in the first year. And so we brought on our chief of staff, Kate Padova, and that's when I feel like things started to get a lot crazier. June is kind of the moment, and I remember turning to Trevor because I don't think we filmed anything in June. I didn't really have any time. Like I'm looking here. Yeah, we had nothing that we filmed. In June, I went on a long motorcycle trip, like a week-long motorcycle trip. That's something that I've never been able to do in my entire career. So as a side note, the really cool thing about this year is not only did we do a lot with the business content, but I also got to live, which was fucking wild. It was a crazy
first time in years.
Yeah, it was so crazy. I just spat everywhere. Like it was amazing. And so June was a little bit slow from a content perspective. We didn't have a ton that we were working on, but things were starting to ramp up with the offers we were working on and the plans that we were building for what we were going to do for the second half of the year. So June, I'd say the biggest thing is we hired Kate. That was awesome. She is the fucking best. We're so grateful for her. Moving into July, we went to Mexico. We went to Cabo. And I spoke at, I loved that little dance move right there. Yeah. We'll give that one up. I did have a few cervezas.
Just kept seeing that.
It was my favorite. Yeah.
In the car. I remember for a month after that trip, you just, una más cerveza.
Just one more, please. One more. Yeah, I mean, there's something about sipping a Corona with lime in Mexico that just hits a little bit different. But we went there to do my first public speaking moment ever. I had spoken in front of like teams internally at the companies that I've worked for, but never done anything publicly like this. This was the first time that I was going to like talk on like a stage, and it was crazy. And it wasn't like it was a massive group, right? Like it was talkies, like it was a group of like 100 people, and I was freaked the fuck out. I remember really trying to hide my anxiety as much as I could, but there was no hiding it. But let's talk through that, because that was an interesting trip. Because not only did we capture that talk, which we uploaded, which was a funny moment where I thought I completely bombed it. And then I watched the footage and I was like, oh, that wasn't half bad. That was actually kind of decent. But then the second thing, which was interesting, is we developed a very interesting view that now I preach as like gospel. But in the hotel room, I remember we were jamming and working on something, and that's where the whole contrarian take came. Do you remember that? Yeah, I feel like we get some gold when we go on trips.
It's funny. I've discovered like when we're traveling for all these shoots, because throughout the year, we basically have shot, I think like 2 videos in Vegas itself.
Yeah.
And the rest has been Airbnbs and Joshua Tree and Utah and all these different places that we go. For some reason, I think it's just because we're in the same room together. That's where we come up with, I think, some of our best ideas. One of them was like we were analyzing why you were talking through why certain brands or personal brands can blow up when others don't. And I think that's when you discovered the 3 levers of brand positioning.
Yeah, the contrarian take, the delivery, and the wrapping paper, and the most important being the contrarian take. We were just like looking at the clients that we've worked with this year, who was having crazy results versus like mediocre results, because that's the reality. Not everyone was like a fucking banger this year, by no means. And the big unlock that was so wildly clear was all the ones that were doing a really good job had a contrarian take, either a belief they held that was fundamentally different than the other people in their industry, or a contrarian action, right? Like they were building a luxury treehouse hotel in a world where like luxury and outdoors is not typically associated, right? They viewed that you could build a strong business and manage a big business effectively while also prioritizing your family and spending time with your family. Like these were contrarian takes. And we were starting to notice like, oh man, these things are really standing out. Then I started looking at people that I've worked with in the past or worked for in the past or other creators that I admire from afar and started looking like, whoa, all of them came onto the scene with a wildly different view than a lot of others. And at this point, like you mentioned, we were starting to have some success with our content. And it was way more than we could have ever imagined in our first year. And so we're like, why are we having success? What is it that is like, I tend to be self-deprecating and I like that kind of humor. I'm trying to work on it to be a little bit less self-deprecating. So you might notice that. But I've never thought of myself as a really articulate and clear communicator. Now, a lot of people are DMing me and saying that in the comments. I appreciate it. And I'm really trying to like let that sink in and really receive that. But up until this point, I did not think that was the reason why anything was working. And I do believe the main reason why is because we came onto the scene from the very beginning talking about optimizing your personal brand around trust, not virality. In a world where every other video that was served on the right side of our videos suggested, every video competing with us on the homepage was talking about how to go viral. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but I don't think that's the way to optimize. That was our contrarian take. But to your point, I think an interesting thing that we've recognized is we need to be sometimes in different environments in order to get new ideas. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that we have operationalized. It was something that happened. It was a happy accident. Back to earlier, your Bob Ross reference. It was a happy accident that we recognized, but it puts us in a different environment. I find that we think differently. And also, I'm going to be real, for me at least, I fucking love my little family that I'm building here. My girlfriend, my dog, and I really find that if I don't go away to do some of the really deep writing, I get pulled, not because they're pulling me, but because I want to go hang out with them. And so sometimes I think it's really nice to carve out time where I'm not going to, and I prefer not to call my family a distraction. I used to think that way, and I think that's a real interesting way of thinking. Family is wildly important, but I am more prone to stepping away from the writing process if I'm at home. And so something that we have done is we got Jesse Itzler's big ass calendar, which is fucking awesome. Shout out Jesse, shout out Taylor, who runs all that shit. She's a gangster. Big ass calendar. Highly recommend that you purchase this. We planned out our film sessions, our writing sessions, and writing retreats. To your point, we're going away for a week next week, but we're not just doing that next week. We're doing that several times throughout the year because we noticed that was something that led to great insights and new concepts, right? And so I think the lesson for everybody here is, it sounds so weird. Observe yourself in your process. If you are doing something that leads to something great and it happened by accident, turn that into a process. Operationalize that shit, right? So I think that was very interesting.
Huge. No, I mean, that's what it is. Like all year, it's been constant iteration, not only on the content of like those little things of like, oh, we operate better this way, or we like to do things this way. That's constant iteration there. Also constant iteration on the concepts and things that you were talking about in the content.
Yes.
Every podcast that you've done, I've watched you articulate better and better the brand journey framework. Like all of these different things that you talk about articulated much more clean. Like you were talking about the levers of brand positioning in the last few podcasts that you've done. And the latest one was so much better than the first time you talked about it because you're constantly iterating on that content. And that's probably something you'll see. Like the number one thing that I can give us props to, I think this year, is just the constant iteration. Like we set a date, we did it to our point earlier, and we iterate on it after we've done it. And after we realize we like to do things a certain way. You like to do things this way. Like this is how I learned how to book. I pick our locations now for filming and everything. How I learned was I picked a location and Caleb didn't like it because it was a really ugly studio. I was trying to be cheap. And Caleb was like, no, I get more reinforcement being in really dope filming environments. So I'm like, cool. Oh, got it. Now I can pick locations for you.
Something that I had to learn the hard way is a lot of times creatives and me, when I was more immature and younger and earlier in my career, I viewed what now I call iterations and how you're calling it. I thought it was like indecisiveness. I thought, people that I've worked for, I thought they were constantly just changing their mind and just couldn't make up their mind. But in reality, they were pinballing, iterating their way to the ideal end product. And that's what we do massively. And something that I think is a good takeaway for two different groups here. For the person who's behind the scenes, the creative who's making the content, be more flexible. Understand that that is crucial. And why would you want to be in an environment where everything is always staying the same? Like, you want to constantly be improving and constantly be getting better. And two, for the talent, I would urge you, make real changes after each film session. Take note of what you liked, what you didn't like, put those into place, but also have some empathy for your team to know that, at least this is the way my brain works, I've been thinking about this for a long time and they're just hearing about this. And so, yes, the team needs to adapt. Like, when I come to you with a crazy new thing that I want to do, you do need to adapt to that, but you do a good job of doing it quickly. But I also think, at least I think, I try to contextualize it for you. I try to address the fact that I know I'm changing my mind. I said the exact opposite last week. This is completely different. I know this is a pain in the ass. I know you've already sunk 12 to 15 hours into this project, and I'm telling you we're doing it completely different, or we're scrapping it all together. And that's fucking painful. But I think if both parties have a little bit more empathy for each other and a little bit more understanding that ultimately both are wanting to make the best product, it will be viewed less as whiplash and more just as, you said, iterating.
I think that's probably the number one takeaway so far in this entire podcast is like, if you can operate like that for your first few years of your personal brand, you will grow. Like, I take notes when we do this thing. I'm taking notes and we're iterating and we're just like, those things time and time again, if you do 1, 2, 3 things better on every shoot that you do, you eventually get to a place that's really, you're in a really good spot.
I agree. I completely agree. So stop staying stagnant, everybody, and stop doing the same things over and over, right? What is it? Definition of insanity. Everyone talks about is doing the same things over and over and thinking you're going to get different results. Like, stop doing the same shit over and over if you want different results.
Hey, you watching this video right now. I know that this is overwhelming and a lot for you to take in. If you want to go deeper in a slower paced environment, we designed something specifically for you. Ralston Select is your one-stop destination to not only learn, but to actually implement. We're talking pre-production, production, post-production, and platform strategy, all through the lens of educational content. Click the link in the description below if you want more information. Now let's get back to the video.
Moving into August, we have two things that we should cover. The August video that we released, let's talk through that one. Do you remember which one that was? That was the respecting the audience's time.
We learned our lesson. This is what we teased earlier, learning our lesson a second time.
Yeah.
We'd filmed footage with a client of ours earlier in the summer, getting B-roll behind the scenes. Our idea was to make what we were literally just talking about of like, I know how to show up to shoots with Caleb. I know what to bring. I know all these different things. We have a whole like SOP on that internally for how to film with
It's
talent.
a pretty hefty playbook, actually.
Huge. Like everything we've learned over the past few years, everything you've learned, especially over the past few years of filming with different types of talent. And our plan was to make that into a video using that B-roll footage and everything. It was yet another, I think, lesson where I booked a shitty studio. That was the first time that I did that, because it was my first time picking the location after the course. We went into it. We were like, I think I developed like a series of questions to ask you. And then it was like, we're going to loosely follow the SOP and like, that's going to be the video. And we show up to film.
He's leaving out the fact I did zero preparation for this. Every other video leading up to this, I had done at least 10 hours of pre-production on, minimum, way more for most of them. And this one I did zilch.
This is where we're like starting to, you'll hear me talk about this in a minute. Like, this is where we're starting to get stretched very thin. This is why we're bringing on the chief of staff that we just did like a month ago. Like, this is why the month prior, we actually didn't film a direct-to-camera video. We had to film at the Talkie More event and use that as our video, which actually did surprisingly well. But like, we're starting to have to be more creative, and but the thing we forgot is like, we still, the 12 hours of concepting this intro or this hook for this YouTube video, we forgot like all this pre-production, all this work that we put. That's what made the first few videos so successful for us. And I think I
got cocky. That's what it was. I thought I could show up and do a better job off top because I think please hear this through a humble tone. I think I do a decent job on podcasts. And I explicitly tell the host, do not send me the questions ahead. It's all off the cuff. So I thought, well, we'll just rip a podcast. We prepared more for this podcast than we did for that fucking video. Now that I think about it, actually.
We didn't even do packaging. We didn't even talk about packaging before we were going to do it.
Which is never the case. We literally never do that.
Well, we learned our lesson. Yeah, we're just so busy and we're diving into things. But we sat down to film that. And it was very clear after an hour of not getting anything that I'm sitting here like, oh God.
I mean, literally, I was getting frustrated with myself because he would ask me a question and I was just not answering it well, or maybe some of the questions, to be fair, I was like, I don't know if I love that. And I remember there was one point where I'm a big fan of the Wim Hof breathing. And I literally was like, I'm just going to stop. And right there with the camera rolling with Trevor right there, I just closed my eyes and turned on YouTube and put on the Wim Hof breathing to try and calm myself down and get myself into the right headspace. And that didn't fucking work. And
it did.
What?
I think it did.
It calmed me down a little bit, but we still tried to do the video and it was still like
that. I think that brought about the pivot.
Yeah.
Which was like,
good point.
You know what? We're not getting this today. Like we're not going to get this video. We can get a video. It will not be something we want to release.
Yeah.
At all, in the slightest. Nowhere near the level of the first 5 or 6 videos that we've done. So I think I think you had the idea to pivot into, you know what? Here's what's happening. You turned to the camera and you were like, I just tried to film a video. And if I had tried to put this video out, I wouldn't be respecting the audience's time. And it was like a 1-minute insert of just talking about that and talking about how like, I'm not going to put this on you. This is me. I promise I'll show up better the next one. And that was the video. It was like 1 minute and 30 seconds. And we posted that for that month. We wanted to stick to that goal of 1 a month. Yep. And that month was a 1.5 minute video.
Me admitting that I had not shown up and I had not respected the audience's time. I chose my time over the audience's time. And it was a moment I remember so distinctly too, just pounding into my head as I was sitting there in front of the lights with nothing to say, being like, this will never happen again. I will not make this mistake again.
Yeah, it was a big lesson for us. We have not made that mistake since, and we have promoted, like we have dedicated so much time now into pre-production. We're like, I think the next video, or maybe it was the one after that, I want to say we put 12 hours into just the intro of just like beating up this intro for a whole day.
The next one was the brand strategies video.
Oh, well, that one was like a full day and a half.
Which we filmed like 2.5 weeks after this moment.
I remember that.
And I had spent before, so we rented an Airbnb, a sick one that you chose, because the studio was like a Bobo. Yeah, studio was Bobo, but the next location was fucking sick. I remember I walked into that Airbnb. I wish we had that on camera because I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Like it was so cool. And leading up to us being out there, I had probably put maybe like 5 to 8 hours into the rough outline, like the overview, not details, right? Just an overview, because we did not have that much time. Like Trevor said, I was really fucking busy. This is a point where like things started getting crazy. And so I didn't have enough time to be able to do this, but I put like an evening and a Saturday morning into it. And then I think we went out on I want to say like a Wednesday night or something like that. Thursday morning, we woke up and what were we doing?
We wrote the whole video. I think we just rewrote it.
Rewrote it.
Yeah. That's actually a trend.
Big trend.
We've like, you've taken like the first stab at it and then we sit down. From this moment on, I think we've done that with almost every video, which is like you do like a rough draft at it. And then we have a full day or two of sitting down and actually writing the video together.
Like scrapping the original version, being like, that's dog shit. Cool. Now that's out of the way, we can actually write the video.
Looking through our wrapping paper library, coming up with the packaging beforehand, like lessons all learned, but like that's that started now. Like to my point earlier of like, I'm still being onboarded. It's only month 6 now, I think, that we're now sitting down and we write these videos together, and I'm seeing your process and how you structure the videos and how you like to flow and the disclaimers you like to add in certain areas.
Yep.
All of those things now start to happen with this video. But we wrote that video it was like a long 14-hour.
Yeah, 14-hour day. In that Airbnb, Uber Eats for meals so that we wouldn't take a moment away from writing. Like, yeah, plenty of Red Bulls, that's for sure. Like but it was fun too. Like we love those
My
days.
favorite days.
Yeah, they're the best. But we did that, wrote it in 14 hours on Thursday, and then Friday.
We filmed it.
In 14 hours, I would say probably like 12 to 14.
That one was like 8 hours of raw footage.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah.
This is where my brain now starts to come back to me, like at this moment in time. But yeah, that was like 8 hours of raw footage. Our second biggest video that we had done. I think the video ended up being 3.5 hours.
Yep. Yeah. So 8 hours down to 3.5 hours. So we did that. We did the multiple scenes like we had done in the other videos. And then we also made a workbook that went with that. So that was really cool. You made that workbook. The one that we did for the personal brand course that we released in April, I wrote that. And then Vin Calabrese, an amazing designer, gangster, did that. And then for the brand strategies video, you did an amazing job of taking all the exercises that I walk through in the video and translating that into a workbook. Because again, I didn't have any time, but we knew that we wanted, this was like, we were talking about 0 to 100K, 100K to $1 million, $1 million to 10 million. There was a lot of actionable shit. And so we wanted to give people the ability to actually take action. And so you did that whole thing. You created it and designed it, all of that. We put that out in August. No, that was released in September, right?
I think it was released the next month. Yep. But yeah, that was like the first time I'd actually written like something in your voice too.
Yeah.
Like that was like, it was your words, but it was.
Oh, but those cover letters, like the intro letter, you wrote that. You 100% wrote that. I read it, maybe made a couple of tweaks, but like this is when I remember this was the first time, because you had submitted some like LinkedIn posts before and stuff, and they would get close, but I never felt like it was like there. This was the first time where I read something that you had written for me. I was like, oh shit, that sounds like me. I'm good with that. So that was cool.
It took 6 months, but that's what it like. Now you're like, this is the moment where I'm starting to like come online. I almost feel like of like, you are getting busier. Oh, I know how to pick locations now because I have fucked up picking a location.
Yes.
I know how to write, like we've written a workbook. Now I can take this and like, I understand our workflow. I understand this is video number 6. I understand now a lot of these things and I can actually dive in and get my hands dirty.
Yeah. And then we're about to get to September, but the last thing that I thought was really cool in August was and we've been talking mainly about the content, but this was a cool thing with a client that I figured I would share. I went out to one of our clients and did a content workshop, and that was fucking awesome. That was so much fun. I think we kind of revamped the way that they went about making content, helped improve some efficiencies around their normal content flow, but also introduced a couple of really fun variations of how to make content and pair it with something that you really enjoy, an activity, a hobby, whatever. But then the other thing that we worked on, which I didn't expect going into it, but we actually rebuilt their editor onboarding plan. And what usually took 2 to 3 months to get an editor up to speed now takes them 2 to 3 weeks, which was incredible. That was really fun. And I remember on that trip, it was another moment where being away from home and being in another environment, I got a couple of really good points and ideas that we later end up talking about in the content. But yeah, let's go into September because things start getting a little crazy. September, Trevor got the greatest bicep workout of his entire fucking life. Talk about filming the career advice video in London.
So this was similar to the If You Struggle With video that we did a few months prior. I think we enjoyed that so much we decided to do another one. We're in London with a client.
Yeah.
Doing some, it was so fun. How can we get a video out of this trip? Like could we do a vlog? Oh, we're with the client most of the time. Like, let's give them our full attention there. But we had a free day.
To be clear, the free day
was one day,
the day after we had done the flight from Vegas, and we arrived to our hotel rooms at 11 p.m. and the next morning we're getting on a train at 6 a.m. And I don't fly internationally that often. So like jet lag was fucking real.
It was crazy. You had like a nice seat too that you could sleep in.
Yeah.
I don't know how you. I don't know.
I literally was. Shout out to KLM. You can actually a full 6'7" human can lay out completely flat. It was amazing.
Crazy. Yeah, we did that, and then we took a train into London because we were staying up north. And we took that morning we took a train ride. The Birmingham.
Yeah, our horrible accents.
Yeah, we took a train out to London, and our goal was we have one day to film this. We can't reshoot this. Not like the first video, where we were basically condensing what we did with the first video in 3 days, and we're like, let's do it in one day because we're better at this now.
And not even like not like our normal like 12 to 14 hour days. Like we had like 10 hours.
We were finishing the last scene for that on the plane. I wrote the shot list for that. I think one of the scenes on the plane going there, because this is still at a time where like I think in recent months have gotten much better at 2 months prior starting production, pre-production on a video. But right now we're in the thick of it. We're still like Kate's brand new onto the team. We're in the thick of it right now. So we're still finishing videos the day before, but we did that in 10 hours. We went to 5 different neighborhoods in London. We're filming, on the tube, the tube.
Yeah.
We're filming
in front of Big Ben.
Big Ben.
Yep. Piccadilly Square or Piccadilly Circus. Sorry.
All those things. And I mean, we learned our lesson. Same, like this time we just went like gimbal or monopod, and we were just running around the city, setting up shots really quickly. Audio was a very big issue with that shoot that we had to reorder some new mics. But yeah, that was an insane, but we got a video out of it.
To be clear, the lesson that we learned from it was maybe next time don't try and jam like a wild video to shoot with many different scenes in one day after you have a really long flight in a city that Trevor had been to once and I had never been to.
I think one of the only like things that made that possible was like 3 months prior I was there.
Yeah.
So I knew roughly where we wanted to shoot.
We got lucky.
So I was like, I know that we could shoot it here. I don't think we're going to be able to like in front of the palace. It's all gated off. But yeah, we shot that all in one day. It was a bit too much, but we got it done. I remember we ran out of time, so we had to film the last scenes at the train station.
Yeah.
And you were falling asleep.
I was shot.
It was gone. I was in pain.
Trevor was physically ill. I was mentally ill. Like it was wild. There's so many other things that people don't realize that you're managing in that. Like you have, every once in a while security coming up and being like, what are you doing here? Right. And then one of us has to navigate that conversation. I'm trying to remember these lines and say them correctly. And then half the time the audio, the fucking mic that we were using, and Hollylands are great, but not when you're out in the wild with a distance between you, because those were cutting out constantly. I mean, there was so many times where I'd be across the street, not that far across the street. And I would deliver the line and Trevor would be like, run it again. And I was like, oh my God.
I could see the frustration.
Yeah. And the thing that sucks is like, that's not Trevor's fault. That's neither one of our faults. I remember it was so bad at one point, you were like considering trying to find a camera shop to buy a new lav, like a new mic. Yeah, that was wild, but it was fun. We had a blast. I think the lesson though is we would probably spread that out over 2 days next time.
We did learn our lesson of pre-production. And from this henceforward, we never had an issue with that. And we kept getting more and more, like this was finished the day before. We keep getting more and more in advance of the video.
Yeah.
Actually finishing the video. That was that. But we got a video out of it. In this season, you're still in this season, really. Hardcore. It's getting very difficult to find 3 days to go out to Joshua Tree and film a giant 6-hour video. How can we come up with, what can we do to get content on the fly?
Yeah. Which brings us perfectly to October. Because in October, we started writing the December video. This is the true moment where we started being 2 months ahead. Let's go. We wrote this together. What was the video? Let's start there.
The December video was basically how you went about creating the course, right?
Yeah. Like why we did it for free and all of that. Yeah. And we wrote that together. This is the one that you mentioned earlier. This is the video that we spent 12 hours on the intro.
I actually think it was the London video.
Editor, Max, you can leave that moment in, please. That was a great moment as a side note. Thank you, Max.
That though, like, I remember we started dedicating, I think we dedicated a couple of days just to that one. And that one's a smaller video for us.
Yeah. Yeah. We reworked that intro quite a few times. Probably not as much as 12 hours, but we went into it knowing it was a shorter video, but we wanted it to be really tight. And the other thing that we were trying to focus on is having this be the video where I am the most myself.
Mm-hmm.
Were there a couple of things that we did intentionally to try and make that possible for me?
It's interesting now. I think that we're getting so in the flow of things that, like, a big thing that I think wanted to start showcasing is this, like, this silly personality that you have. I think when we're filming direct to camera videos, I think it's harder to get a sense of who this person is. And I think everybody who's watching YouTube videos right now is like, yes, I can agree. This person sounds like a robot. Like, how do we inject more personality into our videos and start, like, you want to enjoy the videos that you make and you want to show those sides of you. And like, we talk about 70, 25, 5. 70% deep content, 25% niche wide content, and then 5% personal content is kind of the rough ratio that we like to do, especially in the first year or two with our clients. And that's what we did. But the 5%, injecting that into your content, that doesn't need to be, it can be, right? Like, I mean, Kendall Jenner makes probably 70 to 95% personal content, but like, it can be a carousel on Instagram that you like, here's my Harleys, and you've done that too. And we're starting to get more intentional about that stuff, or a little selfie video that you just toss up. But also that 5% can be injected into the content itself of like, how can we show off Caleb's silly side while delivering this deep educational video? We ordered like a green, wasn't it a green bathrobe? You didn't wear that for the video. You wore that for the ad.
Yeah.
You wore that for the ad
for the lead magnet with it.
Yep. You wore that. You got a Bob Ross mug.
Yep.
We set up like a cozy by the fireplace. We actually rented out a spot in Big Bear, California, and
cabin vibes.
Yeah, we got this
Fireplace.
cabin vibe fireplace. I'm having to stop every 20 minutes and stoke the fire, which is something I've never thought I'd need to do. In
dog slippers.
You had we ordered you dog slippers so that, like, I don't know if I saw a comment on the dog slipper.
Yeah, shockingly, I don't think I've seen anybody call that out, which is wild.
You can't really
People texted me about it, but
your feet are up. Maybe that's it. But yeah, it's injecting, like, at this point we have a cadence, we have a flow. Now it's like talking about iterations. We want to start injecting more of that 5% throughout our content. And that's where I think that was the first video we did it on, really.
And it was an environment where I felt like, because of the almost coziness, I guess, of the environment, like I could bring out the silly little isms, right? Like my more gregarious side, the way that I'll say something and then comment on what I just said. And I think we've left that out in some of the content leading up to this moment. And some of it is, I haven't brought that out as much in the filming. It's not even that we've cut it out. It's just that I've been more in, I guess, teacher Caleb mode. And I remember, this is actually a really great point. I forgot about this. I remember telling you there was one person in particular that I was making that video for, because I was trying to convince her, I want her to do this in 2026 on her YouTube channel. And I was focused on her. And I remember telling you, I want the vibe to feel like, we'll see if I can accomplish it, but my goal is to feel like, more like I'm sitting down for a nice warm cup of tea by the fireplace, talking to her about why I did it, the success that we've had with it, and how I think she could make it even better than mine. And I think having that frame really helped. And it's something that I want to try to do with every video, which is determine what is the vibe really that I want. How do I want the viewer to feel? Do I want them to feel like they're in a classroom? Like the course, right? And this January series that we're releasing right now, like that, I want it to feel more like a classroom. I do want it to feel very much like, this might be a little self-aggrandizing, but like Professor Caleb vibes, right? But then that video, that December video, the one where I'm sitting by the fire, I wanted it to feel like we're just sitting down and having a conversation. And and I'm not saying that anybody needs to do this, but if you were to go watch it, I never say you guys. I don't generalize to the audience. I don't generalize to everybody watching. I talk to you specifically. I always say you. You're probably thinking this. Like, I really was intentional with that language. And every time that I would say you guys or speak to the group, I would stop myself and re-say the line so that I was speaking to the individual person. And that's very specific and granular, but I think it's really useful for people. If you can pick somebody in your life that you know that needs this information and you picture like you're sitting down to give it to them, it's amazing. The other thing, and then I think we move on, but the other thing is going back to some of the other videos that I've made, I do pick somebody that I'm making the video for. It hasn't been for the same reason, right? But in the course, for example, a really good friend of mine that I love and adore, Dustin, he was starting a new role. And so it was like, okay, cool. I am making this for Dustin because I think some of this information is going to be really crucial for him and he's going to want this, right? And so when I was fucking exhausted and felt like blood was coming out of my eyeballs and my throat was going to dry up from talking more in a single day than I probably did in the entire year leading up to that moment, I just kept thinking, this is for Dustin. Because I am not internally motivated. I am motivated for others. And so by making it for somebody else, that caused me to push through those tougher moments where I just wanted to say, Trevor, let's fucking call it a day.
Having somebody in mind when you're making this video is crucial to like how it's crucial into the language that you're using in that video. And I remember when we were filming that video in December, this was the first time I saw you very intentional about the use of like you guys versus you, the audience versus you. Again, on those iterations, you were also like the camera's inverted. So you're also like, when you go from like left to right, you actually have to go right to left, right?
Yeah.
And that is another thing that you're picking up on, and you like,
shout out to Talkie Moore. He
Yeah.
texted me about that.
All these little micro iterations. It's just, it just
Huge.
keeps coming.
Ginormous. Yeah. Yeah. That is a really good takeaway from the entire podcast is that is the meta theme of our year was iteration.
I don't think I realized it till right now.
Yeah. What a cool thing. So now we're moving to November, and outside of the content, this is when I roped Trevor. Really, October and November is when I started roping Trevor into some cool projects that we're working on that are releasing this year on this really cool offer that we're building that I think is fucking insane, that him and I are putting an insane amount of time, effort, and brain power into. And I started having you work on that. And so this is like a moment where, and I'll speak for Trevor here, where he's now having to navigate a wildly new skill, which is how do I do the stuff that I know how to do and do all the time? But then also a big portion of my time is starting to be like client delivery or this new exciting offer that we're building at Ralston, right? And it's like, the interesting thing is 2 points for November. We start writing this series that's coming out right now. That's the 2 videos that have been released right before this one and the video that comes out after this one. We started writing that, right? And in writing that, knowing all the work that you were going to be doing in Q1, the first quarter of the year, on this exciting project and this amazing offer we're putting together, we knew you didn't have the time to edit the January series because at this point, spoiler, not really a spoiler, we have only released 1 video a month for the first 10 months of making content. And January 2026, we decided to release 4 videos. We didn't have really probably capacity for that regardless of them working on this special project. Now that you're working on it, it was impossible. So what did we do?
Yeah, but so the last like 4 months of 2025 have been like I'm progressively hopping into more and more on the client side. I'm trying to like I'm involved a lot more in pre-production, production. I'm doing the production, the post-production, all these different things. And we're realizing as of like I'm jumping into this, like, I think the month prior, I was like helping redesign the website for this offer that we're like coming, like my brain is being pulled in so many directions. And the first thing of like, when we talk about hiring, right? Hiring off constraints or off of bottlenecks, like the first thing that we started, and this was a conversation long time in the making, but finally in November, I think we kind of turned to each other and it was like
the last straw.
It was like, Honestly, there's no way, unless I get no sleep, that we're going to be able to go more than one video a month at my capacity with all the different things that I'm doing. We zoomed out for a second. We're not focusing on short form this year. And that's a great decision that we made pretty early on.
Yep.
After learning our lesson and trying to go more consistent on shorts, it was like, we're going to be, our primary focus is on YouTube this year.
Yep.
Until we get some help. The help came in November. We decided the most amount of my time was going to editing these long forms, right?
Yeah.
We've now had to hire at this point a couple different contractors to help with motion design because I just don't have time. Because the next week we're flying to London and we have to go shoot this video. That like there's no time for this stuff, and so that's the biggest constraint that we had at that moment. And so we knew that we needed to hire an editor. So we did editor tryouts actually for like finding an editor. I think it was like in 2 weeks we put all the footage together. We prepped everything and we got like this funnel ready. You went on Instagram, you announced it, and you're like, hey, we are looking for an editor. Our kind of process for that, which I've seen you do in the past, but this is the first time I got to lead it, was this editor tryouts.
In Ralston Select, like I mentioned, we actually have a playbook that walks through all of this that you can get, but I'll give you a high level overview. Basically, you use your own socials, if you have a decent following, to be able to attract editors. And what you want is you want all of these editors to edit the same footage so that you can see who fits what you are wanting to do the best. But you should promote this in multiple places. So not only did we promote this through social, we also did a job posting on ytjobs.co, which I talk about quite a bit to people. And you know, to be fair, there's a lot of different characters on ytjobs.co. And that's something I know they're working on refining and helping to make sure it's really clear who the best are and who, you know, maybe the early individuals in their career are. But we promoted it over there as well. And we got incredible candidates through socials, but also some incredible candidates, including the one that we ended up bringing on as a contractor, Max, through ytjobs.co.
Hundreds. So there was like a few hundred people we went through.
A lot. Shout out to Trevor for going through all of that. But the point being is that a question I get a lot of times is like, how do I go about finding these people? And I think you need to start going where they are living. And a lot of people go to ytjobs.co. I'm not sponsored or affiliated with them in any way. I get no money for this. I'm just trying to help y'all out. That is a place where a lot of creatives go to find gigs. And so we also decided to post on there. It was a moment where I was like lacking ego, right? It was like, no, we might not find exactly what we're looking for in the right scenario through just my socials, even though I have a ton of creatives that follow me, right? Now, we got a fuckload of really good individuals that were awesome and amazing, but something about Max just kind of stood out. His editing style was incredible. We loved it. Blah, 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 blah. Max, you're incredible. You're awesome. We love you.
He's editing this video right now.
That was amazing. And we did that ahead of time, preparing, because as we were writing the series, it just started to morph into more and became bigger and bigger. Basically, the original idea was like a 20-minute video, a 20-minute video, an hour-long podcast, and we combined those two things into roughly an hour and a half to 2 hour long video. And as we started writing this, it just grew and grew into a much bigger project. I rewrote it 3 times. And then on the 4th rewrite, we did it together. And that's where it got crystallized and dialed. This was the first time where I started seeing comments, but also messages from people. Not a lot. It wasn't like high volume. I mean, there was probably like 4 or 5. And most of the time I ignore if it's just, and I want everyone to hear this correctly, if it's just the audience giving feedback and they're not proven customers, I try not to take too much direction from that. I try to take more direction from customers than just viewers, right? I love viewers and you are wildly important, but I'm trying to build a business here too. And so I optimize my content around what the customers need or want more of. But this was a moment where I saw some feedback from the audience that was saying, hey, you're using the same examples over and over. It's a lot of the same stuff. And that is kind of my point, right? Like, I really believe that you should consistently say the same shit over and over in different ways. I believe that's how you build a strong brand, is consistently pairing yourself with those concepts. Then you get known as being somebody who delivers those concepts and solves those problems. But I also knew that I could come up with different examples And I had a couple other frameworks in my back pocket that I had not shared, that I had been maybe working on, mulling over, whatever. And so this was the first series where we took that feedback and I was like, my goal is to have at least 60 to 70% of this be brand new shit that I've never shared. And so that was another cool thing and another fun exercise for us, which was like, okay, I've given the Nike and Michael Jordan example a million times. What's another way that I can illustrate this that not only might help sell the point to people who have heard the Michael Jordan analogy, but also will connect with different people that don't give a fuck about sports, right? And so we use the Apple and Johnny Ives example, and I'm not going to explain it here. You got to watch the video if you haven't to get it. But we tried new shit. And it was the first time where I felt like I really pushed myself to, I had come up with new concepts for other videos, that's for sure. But share things that I've said before in a new light. And something that I think we'll probably talk about a lot more in future videos this year is like, how do you continue to solve the same problems over and over in new and interesting ways with variety? It's actually something we were talking with one of our clients about literally this morning. What happened in December? It looks like we hired Max and onboarded him. Let's talk through that. We'll hit on filming the January series, but I think the most important thing in December, is how you onboarded Max. Like even he called it out, right? And I'm trying to give you as much permission to toot your own horn here because Trevor did an incredible job. But please, let's walk through how you did that. I think that's the most valuable thing that we could share from December.
Yeah. First and foremost, anyone who has started in a role knows the pain points and knows and Max is a contractor right now, but I still consider like anybody who we're bringing into our team to work on something, like I consider them in a way a part of the team. Yes. And so I want to treat them as though they are part of the team, as though they are like in any point.
We don't view them as just a contractor.
Yeah. Yeah, but we shout out how many times have we mentioned Michael this entire video? Yeah. Mars, who edited the 3 stages video.
And did a phenomenal fucking job on it.
So we brought him in.
Mars is also linked down below as well.
Every person that we bring in, I like to make it as clear as so I have an onboarding call with him where I'm going through, we had the videos filmed. This was a real unique situation. The reason we were in like a 2-week crunch to hire this person is because right as I gave him and sent him the contract is when I'm like, the next day, hey, the footage is uploaded for you on a drive. It is neatly organized for you. Here is a sheet.
What does neatly organized mean?
I'm separating all this stuff into A cam, B cam, C cam at times, sometimes. I don't know if I did it for this, but I'm labeling all these things. I'm also creating a Google Doc pointing out there was an audio issue towards the end. The camera C cam lost focus for 20 minutes and I actually couldn't get to it because it was on the other side of the room. All of these things I'm noting like we filmed ads here and the ads are going to be in this, and this, and this is how we want it. Like same thing with that frame folder that I mentioned at the very beginning. I did that here too, which was the first thing I told him to do was like, hey, don't bother jumping into this. This is your first video with us, by the way. Absolutely nailed it and absolutely nailed the style of these videos in one version. But I was like, get us an A-roll cut first. Don't worry about cutting shit out unless you feel like it's really not valuable. Give us this A-roll cut. And that's the first thing that we're going to work on. I will give you notes from there. And I will actually I will guide you through the project from there. You have all of these resources. I have a neatly organized Google Drive folder of all the Mogerts that actually Mars, I think, gave us a bunch of Mogerts for.
Shout out Mars.
The past
Ardochi
video.
Jewels. Yeah.
I have those in a folder. I have our branding, colors, guidelines, brand style guide, everything in a folder. Anything that this person, zoom out when you're onboarding somebody like this, what are the things that they're going to ask for? And provide it for them up front. And it sounds simple, but I remember Max is like, oh, thank you. It's ready to go. I'm ready to hit the ground running. And if you want to, and then I have a 2-hour call with him walking through all these things. And I'm like, if you need me, here's this. We set you up with a Slack channel and I'm going to be as fast as I can at responding to you. All these things just help even in a contract scenario, but especially with an actual hire. This is how you do it. You give them all the resources, you give them all the materials, and you give them a lot of your time at the beginning as well. Even though the goal is to save me time with this project. And it did. I'm still dedicating a lot of time to doing this A-roll cut, to organizing this folder, to doing all those things. But it just set them up with like, yeah, here's how we roll. And I mentioned this before, but the trust factor still plays into even the contractors that we hire, right? Like 20-minute of our call was, here's exactly how you're going to see notes from me. I'm never going to demand. I'm always going to ask. I'm always going to trust you first. And I'm always going to like, please. And if I give you a note, I'm going to give you a reason for why I'm giving you that note. This is extremely important when you onboard editors, designers, anyone. The thing that you do with your feedback is you provide feedback and then you provide the reason why you are giving that feedback.
Oh, huge.
When I was hiring this editor, all of the people in the interviews asked me like, what is the number one thing you're looking for? And I'm like, communication. Somebody who knows how to communicate, somebody who like I can give feedback to and they jump on it immediately and understand it. And how does somebody understand something? It's explained to them. It's shown to them. It's like, yeah. So every note, I'm explaining this to Max. I'm going through, I'm going to explain every single note, why I'm doing this, if we should do this in the future or not.
That is the playbook. 100%. It's actually a playbook that, again, I'm sounding now like I'm pushing it, but that is a playbook that we offer in Ralston Select. Like that is how you do it. So you can either do that or just literally scratch down everything that you just said because he just gave it all away right there. There was two other things that I wanted to briefly call out for December. One is we filmed the January series. We went out to an Airbnb and sprinted through that. Again, it was another like gnarly 12, 14-hour day. That was fun. That was awesome. But it's also exhausting, right? Like, I don't want to pretend here. Like, they're very fun. And it's some of my favorite days. That's like some of my favorite memories. But it's also exhausting. So we did that. That was awesome. That was really fun. Side note, we rented an Airbnb that had more windows than there are Starbucks locations in downtown Seattle. It was absurd. And we had a couple reflectors and flags or whatever, but like we didn't have that much to cover it. But we went to Walmart and bought just a bunch of black sheets, like king size bed sheets. And probably to the neighbors looked like we were cooking something illegal. Won't mention what that is, but it looked a lot like some of the homes in the area where I grew up. But anyways, out in the country, we covered all of those windows with blankets. And then we took moving boxes that we grabbed from Home Depot, cut them up and shoved them into the skylights to cover the skylights.
Here's the front door.
Keeping the zombies out is what we're doing. Yeah, it was a very interesting setup, very, very scrappy, working with what we have, but we made it happen. And I think that's another like big thing that I would encourage everybody is I'd say very few times has everything gone according to plan when we show up at an Airbnb, an uncontrolled location, all of these things, right? Shifting light, a terrifying spider in the couch. Yeah, that was
I think you have the video of that.
Yeah.
Getting attacked by a ram.
Yeah.
Almost. We didn't get attacked by a ram.
But almost got attacked. I mean, we got intimidated by a mountain goat that was fucking freaky. But yeah, I think the big thing for us has been adaptability. We've done a really good job of, maybe getting frustrated for a second and being like, fuck, this light is impossible to work with. And then being like, well, we could go get sheets and cover it. And is it going to completely cover the light? No, but it gives us 95% control. And that's what we need.
What's really interesting on that point, just real quick, I'll hit it, is it's the stepping stones to that of like, we have now started controlling the light in our locations for film sessions. We didn't care about that, nor did we have the means or the time or the headspace to think about that when we filmed the course. Yeah. When we filmed the course, actually the light changes throughout the entire course. I don't know if people notice it or not, but like sun up to sun down, and that warehouse still had windows, and like
those windows were like 20 feet high.
in LA, sunny LA, like I don't know if it was sunny, but this like we don't try and bite off more than you can chew is I think a great lesson here of like, we're only doing that. We're only starting to control light in our setups. Like we have, like here we have blinds actually, which is really nice. But we're only now starting to shift and buying another light to light some other spaces. And we're starting to get little batteries for the cameras so that we don't have to actually plug, like all these things. I think it just goes back. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, that iteration, but like, don't try and bite off more than you can chew in the beginning and start stair stepping. Like you'll see even what we did for our first or second video was probably too much for somebody who's just starting out to actually handle.
Yes.
In their first, like the 3 camera setup is ridiculous.
Yeah. Like, let's be very clear here. When we started this, it was my first time making a video for me, but I had been doing this for 16 years when we started this, right? You had been doing it for what, like 6 or 7 years?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
like,
all come from production backgrounds.
Yeah. We definitely had a little bit of an upper hand on that than your average bear. And even us, we selected what we would focus on, knowing that down the road we'll improve that. But right now, that's not what is necessary.
It's choosing the things in the beginning that have what is going to get you the biggest bang for your buck. We were just talking about this before this podcast. One of the things, I was talking to somebody the other day, they were asking for advice on this editing workflow because they're like, it's taking me a really long time here. And like, I'm really having a tough time like going through and picking music or picking LUTs or whatever it is. Like this is something you could do both for editing, production workflows, but also just your content in general, I feel like, is a priority list when you're attacking projects, and content is in order of priority. I actually asked this person the other day, I was like, okay, so when you're tackling an edit, what will move the needle the furthest for this educational video and specifically? They're like, well, it's the cut, it's all the content in it, and like choosing like how the video flows and the structure of the video. And I was like, amazing. That's our first priority. If we get nothing else done in this video, because we are all strained for time and all strained on resources, like that is huge. I was like, what's the next thing? Well, the next thing's probably, it's like, honestly, it's not motion graphics. It's actually audio. Like audio is actually a huge part. And I was like, I completely agree. I don't know if I'm missing something, but like, I agree. So that's like, and you can do that with content in general. You can do that with your workflows. And I think you can do that with your brand. Like, what are the things that move the needle the furthest? And like, attack those first. That's what we did with the course. Is we're prioritizing. We hired somebody for the motion graphics too.
Yeah. But
the first thing we're prioritizing is like, pre-production. That's before the editing. That's pre-production is on top of the checklist. And what is like the packaging, the idea, the concept, the structure of the video. All those things get attacked beforehand. So like, I don't know if I'm going on a tangent here, but basically I think that huge thing of just that priority list helps with shit like this.
Massive.
Helps with like the controlling the lights, to be honest, is at near the bottom of that list for educational content. I don't know if it changes for any other type of content, but for educational content in particular, it's like, no, there are 10 to 20 to 30 things above that I would actually focus on before you tackle like, okay, in this shoot, now we should get batteries for the cameras that attach to the tripod in a really fancy way. But that's just, that priority list is so key and so crucial.
I completely agree. Well, it's fun. I feel like we've gone into a lot of granular detail, maybe so much that maybe we bored Bugsy to sleep here. He's finally sleeping. He's been so active during the whole thing. And then now that we're nearing the end, he's just chilling over there. We wanted to very briefly talk about what we're focusing on in 2026. And there's going to be a ton. And I'm sure what we share will change within 3 days. But as of right now, what is kind of your area that you're focusing on for 2026 with our content specifically?
We spent the first year being very intentional. Maybe we didn't know what we were doing at first, but we got very intentional very quickly and iterating so quickly on that. Like, we've been very intentional over this past year of building the foundation, building the sustainability aspect, how you're going to stick with this.
Yeah.
How I'm going to want to stick with this.
Yeah, 100%.
Finding the holes in everything, finding out where we're best at, where we need to improve, getting this cadence down, getting these workflows down, getting organized, getting set up, bringing on an editor for our first constraint. Like, we've spent the first year being very intentional with building the foundation, I'd say, of your personal brand. And I think next year, especially, it's now, I mean, everybody talks about scaling. Like, I think it's not necessarily scaling that. I think that the media team will stay very lean even into next year. But next year, I want to spend we have the goal of doubling the amount of YouTube videos at the same quote unquote quality, for lack of a better term there, going into next year. So we're going to doubling that output. And I now am going to have more time and attention to focus onto another primary platform because we have support now going into Instagram and short form content. Like we've been repurposing. That's been our strategy. And it's not something that you want to do, but like I've been making podcast clips for you here and there. We've been making some promo pieces for our YouTube videos and stuff like that. But now it's time to get serious. And now it's like, okay, I actually cut my teeth on short form content for years and years. Now my brain is starting to open up and to be able to do that. So that's my biggest focus, is turning the Eye of Sauron, as you like to call it, to another platform, getting that up and running, cutting my teeth again and getting a lot sharper in that area while still maintaining and actually doubling our output in other areas. So that's been huge.
It's a big one. I mean, that is no simple task, right? That's a lofty goal, but I think we did a really good job at the end of December of sitting down and planning out our year and what it'll look like, and saying, okay, if this is our goal, these things have to be true. How do we make these things true? Well, one of them is we need pre-production time. Well, then we should probably plan that on the calendar in December for all of 2026. And of course, it'll ebb and flow, it'll shift. We'll have to move things around, things will come up, but it gives us a plan to operate off of that we can then break. If you have no plan, there's nothing to break other than yourself, right? And so it's like, I love breaking the plan, but you gotta have the plan in order to break it. It's like breaking the rules is great, but you can't. I remember Ruben Evans, my director when I worked at Logos, the software company, I remember him telling me, he goes, great editors break the rules all the time, but they're only capable of breaking the rules because they know the rules. And I think it's very similar with having a plan. You're always going to need to be able to break a plan and change a plan, but you can only change or break something if it exists. And so us carving out the time at the end of December to do that and plan that out, I think was huge. I think a big one that I want to focus on that I wrote here, I'm reading it real quick. There's two things. One, I think I've just scratched the surface of my ability to take problems that customers bring us, our solutions, and then create frameworks for the audience to be able to utilize in their content. I'm just scratching the surface of that. I have a lot more that I can do. I can get a lot better at that. And so that's something that I'm going to be pushing myself on. If you look at my calendar, which none of you can because that would be crazy, but if you saw my calendar, you'd see a huge portion of my time this year is dedicated towards writing. I've put, probably, if you were to add it all up, there's probably 3 entire weeks, maybe even 4 entire weeks out of the whole year just for writing, which I think is really cool. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is what we were talking about for the December video. I want to bring more of who I am as a person, my silly isms, my quirks, the things that are going to make the way that I communicate attractive to some people and turn off a bunch of other people. And that's okay. I just want to be unbelievably me. I think for 2 reasons, and this is how I want to end this. The 2 reasons why I want to be unbelievably me in the content. 1, AI content is very much prevalent and at scale. And the only way, in my opinion, to stand out is to be human as fuck. I was texting a buddy of mine the other day. I think that would be such a cool brand as a side note to build, human as fuck. I don't have the time. It would be a distraction. If anybody wants to take it, do it. But I think that is the way to stand out amidst the ever-growing amount of AI slop. And depending on when you're watching this, it's only getting worse and worse and worse. The beginning of this year, there wasn't that much of that shit on my feed. I rarely saw that. I didn't see the panda, vlogging like I saw midway through the year. It has gotten fucking crazy. So being unbelievably human is a great way to stand out. And 2, to the point that we've hit on, probably second most to iterating in this podcast is sustainability. It's really hard to be a caricature of who you are. It's really hard to pretend to be somebody that you think your audience wants. And if you are one of those unique characters that can keep that up for a long time, well, here's another motivation for you. The moment that you meet somebody who watches you online in real life and you are not that way, boom, game over. You have ruined trust with that person. And if that happens enough, your personal brand starts changing and the way that it is interpreted changes. So the more that you are who you actually are, not who you think your audience wants, I think the longer you'll stick with it and the more you will actually stand out.
That was great. That was great.
This was fun. Thanks for doing this,
This
man.
is super fun. You killed it.
Oh, you killed it. This was great. And that is what we do after every fucking film session. As another note, there's another piece of value for you guys. The moment that you get done with filming, somebody on your team should fucking come up and dap you up and say, great job. With that, I think the next video that people should watch is going to be somewhere right here in the middle. They should click on this somewhere right here. You'll get a lot of value from it, hopefully. If you got value from this, we would love to know what your favorite moment was. Because let's be real, there's not a lot of you here. And so we're not getting that much traction off of sending you to another video. So the more interesting thing is actually, if you can comment with either your number one question, because we said all this shit and it revealed a bigger question that you have, or the number one point that you took from this. I'm looking forward to all three of these comments. Appreciate you all. You're the best.
Peace.
Holy fucking shit. We just built the foundation for your entire personal brand. We got your brand positioning down. We've got your content strategy down. Absolutely insane. You have your personal brand operating system. You figured out your brand journey framework, right? We figured out what is our end goal, and does making content and building a public personal brand help me accomplish that or not? We figured out your brand positioning. We built out your credibility bank, or if you're the student, we did your interest bank. We helped figure out how we're going to avoid burning out. This is such a common thing for creators, and we're figuring out how to avoid that. We figured out identifying the pain that your customer is feeling and how you can integrate that into both your brand and the content that you make. We identified your contrarian belief. This is how you're going to stand out. We figured out what your desired associations are going to be. We wrote your brand statement so that you can clearly communicate what your personal brand stands for, what it's about, and why you're different than your competitors. We then moved into content and we talked about the trust first strategy, optimizing for trust over virality. We talked about building a sustainable system. This doesn't matter if you quit after 6 months. You need something that you're going to actually stick with. Then we figured out, how the fuck do we come up with ideas? This is such a common problem that people have, is like, how do I know what to make? Well, we figured out how you can come up with your content ideas. We also worked on your delivery, okay? This is a form. This is one of the 3 levers on how you can stand out. We figured out what you can do in your delivery and lean into who you are as a human, not build some caricature that you see online. We also talked about your wrapping paper, how you're gonna wrap this beautiful gift called your content that you give to your audience. We also went through how to repurpose your content, right? Like, not only how to make the primary pillar platform content, but we also use the waterfall method on how to get more out of what we're already doing. We also, and this I've never done before, but we actually went through what your first 3 videos can be in building and amplifying your personal brand online. Whew, that was a lot, but I am so proud of you for getting to this point. I know this is a lot of work. There's a lot of like self-reflection, a lot of pushing yourself, a lot of asking uncomfy questions sometimes. And so I just want to say, I'm very proud of you for getting to this point. I'm very excited to hear the results that you get from taking action on what we shared in here. One thing I want to really quick remind you on, if you watch this and you're at this point now and you haven't been filling in that workbook, what the fuck are we doing here? This is what drives me nuts, okay? I'm not here trying to make entertainment content. I'm not that entertaining. I'm a little silly and wacky and fun, but I'm not that entertaining. I'm here to change what you do. That is my goal here. So please, if you watched this all the way through and did not fill out the workbook, start over, download that workbook. The link is in the description below. I've said it a million times already, so you already know. Get the workbook and go through the course and actually go through the exercises. This is going to make all this time you invested into consuming this worth it for you. If you're still watching at this point, you probably want some more content to watch, more actions to take, and more information to digest. Click this video to watch it. It's the 3 stages of your personal brand. We go from 0 to 100K, 100K to $1 million, and $1 million to $10 million. Enjoy.